What's up YouTube? You're back with Oliver Dunstan, aka the $1 Million Bus Driver. Today's hot topic is going to be on emergency funds and how important that is going to be for you. Please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Let's get right to it. So an emergency fund is one of those things that you don't realize how much you need one until you need it. I have made this mistake many times before my bankruptcy, and I'd have a car go wrong, or I'd have, I was a truck driver before. That was my business I was talking about in one of the other shows there, and something had happened with my truck, or I'd get a flat tire, or my washing machine would break. There was always something happening, and I never had an emergency fund, and I wished I did. It's one of those things that you really, really should focus on trying to grow and have at your disposal. It really is. So how much do we need in an emergency fund? That's a tricky one. So it depends on the individual, I guess. If you're making a smaller amount of money, you're probably not going to need as much. Or if your expenses are less, you're probably not going to need as much. Now, if you have an extremely high income and high expenses, then I'd suggest putting more away. The way that I like to look at my emergency fund is, this is a bit morbid, but what if I lose my job? How long am I going to need to survive with this emergency fund? Is it going to be 1 month? Is it going to be 2 months? Is it going to be 3 months? Maybe 4 months, may even be up to a year for some people. But it's not so much the losing the job that you need to worry about. It's the thinking of how long you may need to live on that fund until you've found another job. That's the real important part. So I just want everyone to be aware that there isn't really a magic number for an emergency fund. It's whatever you're comfortable having in there. And again, you may have something break that costs you $3,000, and then something else that goes and it costs you another $1,000. So there's always different things to look out for, and make sure that you're comfortable with how much you have in that fund. Now, I know lots of people use a credit card for their emergency fund, and that is totally fine. If that's how you've been doing it and it's working for you, then I encourage you to continue doing the same. The only reason I would now not use a credit card for my emergency fund is because I don't want to essentially pay any interest. So as we're trying to grow wealth and become financially independent, we definitely don't want to be giving anyone or any company or a credit card company any of our hard-earned money towards interest. Now, credit cards are great. I use my credit card a lot. I get points, but I always make sure I pay it off right away. So for your emergency fund, if you've had a job loss and you're using your credit card, you never know when you're going to be able to pay that credit card off again. And when you do get a job, you'll be so used to living off of that credit card and not having money that you're not going to want to put the money right back on the credit card and still be living broke, if you like, and still having this credit card balance. You're working and you're having to just pay all your money back to that. You're going to incur interest. You're definitely more likely to not pay your credit card off in one lump sum, and that's just typical human nature. If you have an emergency fund in that place, you can pay the money back into there at your leisure, and you're not going to incur any interest. That's the great thing about having an emergency fund. It's saving you so much money on interest. And I know interest, it doesn't sound like a lot, it's $7, it's $8, it's $10, but it adds up over time. So just really, really try and think, should I be using my credit card, or should I do what the $1 Million Bus Driver does and have a fund available and ready for me just in case? I think the chances are the second one would be better for you. So the interest is definitely a big thing for me in credit cards. I've definitely paid my fair share of interest with credit cards, especially when something's gone wrong. Now, if you happen to use an emergency fund, that's because something's gone wrong. So you're already down on your luck. So you really don't want to be down on your luck and on top of that be charged interest by a bank or a credit card company. It just makes everything even worse. So how you want to be looking at your emergency fund is as a personal float, just as you'd find in a grocery store or in a bank. They have their cash float for the day, and that's what you're working with. So if you've got $10,000 in that float, you always know that you've got a $10,000 cushion if anything goes wrong. Worst case scenario, you've got 10 grand at your disposal. And it doesn't have to be 10 grand, it can be less, it can be more. I'm just using $10,000 as a rule of thumb, if you like, just for instance. Now, as I said earlier in this video, that $10,000 float, it's gonna see you well, and if you do have to take money out, you can just pay it back in whenever you need, at your leisure, and you're not gonna incur any interest. So just remember that. Now, with my emergency fund, it's quite a large amount of money, and I don't want to just leave it in an account that's making 0.02% or 0.25%. I want it in something that's earning me a little bit of interest, 2-3%, which is doable. You've just got to look at the products at the bank, even run into the bank and say, hey, I'm starting an emergency fund. I want something that's reasonably accessible, but it doesn't have to be accessible on my bank card. It can be something that I go in there and it takes a couple days to get. Chances are, if you have had something go wrong, or you've lost a job, God forbid, or there's something else that's happened, you've probably got a couple days grace period. Where you can just run in, hey, I need to access some of that money. And who knows, maybe you've not touched that emergency fund in a few years, and you've got an extra $200 or $300 in there just from interest. That to me sounds like a way better idea than having the $200 or $300 in interest from a credit card that you're paying. Why not be paid instead of pay it? So, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope that's given you a little bit of clarity on an emergency fund and the importance of an emergency fund. I know I didn't give you any specific numbers, but just look at what you're comfortable with and always look at how long is it going to take me to find another job. If that's your number, then stick with it. Thanks for watching. We'll get back to you soon. Again, everyone, please like, share, and I hope it was insightful for you. Thank you.